kidnapped son returns after 3 decades. Before reading, please note that I am not very used to writing long stories, so apologies in advance if the post seems like a drag. However, the story is so insane it warrants a mention here. I will try to articulate it to the best of my abilities. This event relates to my friend's great-aunt. Let's call her Gia. The family comes from India, and these series of events date back to the early 1950s. Names changed to protect privacy. Gia had a son, Amit, who she loved dearly. Amit was a beautiful 1-year-old boy with green eyes and fair complexion, something that would stand out quite a lot where we come from. Amit was also the youngest of 3 children and the only boy. He was the golden child of both parents. The family would often frequent a densely crowded spice bazaar nearby for their daily groceries. One day, while making her usual purchases within the bazaar, Gia looks back to see that Amit went missing. Panic set in almost instantly as she cried out for her son to no avail. The family searched frantically, but there was no trace of the boy. He was declared missing. They lodged a police complaint with the area's station. Hours turned to days, days to weeks, and weeks to months. The family eventually started accepting that Amit would never come back home. They would make active efforts not to discuss what happened and blocked it out of their minds. But Gia could never let go of the guilt. She would cry every day on losing her only son and still believed Amit would come back home one day. In her mind, Amit was still in that market trying to navigate his way. Her weekly routine would consist of going back to that market at the same time as that day and searching for her son for hours. She also refused to change her residence in case Amit comes back and is unable to find the family. 3 decades pass, and it's the mid-80s now. Losing her son took a heavy toll on Gia and affected both her mental and physical health. She became partially delirious and had almost lost her eyesight. Her husband had passed a few years ago, and she lived alone in that same house, still believing Amit would come back. There wasn't much to live for anymore. Until one day there was a knock on the door. A tall man with green eyes and distinct features shows up at the door. He introduced himself as Steve to the caretaker, looking for Gia. Gia, now in her 60s and almost blind, instantly started crying as she set eyes on him. She recognized her youngest son even with the little vision she had left. It turns out that Amit was kidnapped in that spice market by a child trafficker and sold to a barren couple in North Africa. The couple, a wealthy black Christian family, were touring India at the time for their honeymoon. They were unable to adopt a child in their home country due to red tape and government regulations in the 50s. They instantly fell in love with Amit the moment they set eyes on him.
Amit was brought up as Steve and taken as one of their own. He was taught the native language and grew up pampered as one of the richest kids within the country. As Amit grew older, the physical differences between him and his parents became more evident, and he started pondering over his biological origins. On his deathbed, the father confessed to buying him off a child trafficker in India. Amit managed to triangulate the city and district where he was kidnapped. Scattering through old missing people records within the local police station dating back to the 50s, he was able to find out the filer of the complaint and their address. Now in his mid-30s, Amit was barely recognizable. He could not even speak Hindi and had to have a translator with him to communicate with Gia. Amit stayed for a week in India, visiting the house daily to meet his biological mother who had waited her entire life for him. Gia, now finally at peace, passed away a month later in 1986.